Sure.
When the brand was started, we used to go Tunusa, get second-hand jackets. We sold them for 400 rand. I remember I bought my first jacket for 60 bucks, reconditioned it, sold it for 400 rand.
Sure.
And time goes, and then I start buying suits from Turkey. My mind is blown. There's someone in South Africa who can actually make a bespoke suit, a custom-made suit. Wow. Okay. Our business changed 1 year when we dressed the CEO of Audi then. We dressed, he was the head of Vodacom business. We dressed Robert Marawa, you know. So you see gentlemen who come to you and they buy your shoes.
Yes.
For almost the same amount of money that they would spend on a Versace or a Gucci loafer, you know? Like, but it's like, no, Bafo, this is proper stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've got my initials engraved on my shoe, something that no one else can offer me.
Well, it is the Advent Pod SA, a timely voice indeed, and we're here in studio with the one, the only master of suits. Suitability is in the house, beloved, and I'm going to allow himself to introduce himself to the people. Brother, take it away.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Awakhiwe Kona. And as I've been graciously introduced, I'm Mr. Suitability, the grandfather.
Hey, yes, sir. The father of suits. Hallelujah. All right. So we're going to engage in a conversation here. And, our viewers are people of taste, I believe, people of class. We're going to talk all things, men's fashion, men's hygiene, but also tapping into your journey. So we want to first start off with your journey coming up to now, Suitability. Yes. Where did you come up with this idea, and how did it all happen?
Okay, so let me take you a few years back, right?
Sure.
So, or rather, a few years before the start of Suitability. Apparently, as a kid, I was very particular about what I wear. You know, it's stuff that my parents tell me, and it's very interesting that it grew with me up until after varsity went into the corporate space. That's where Suitability was started. So I'll just give you a brief overview. So joining the corporate space, I always had an idea that a gentleman who works in corporate needs to suit up on a daily, right?
Okay.
And then there was something going on about, you know what, it's only investment bankers who have to suit up because they meet clients, they need to, be presentable,
Yes.
But I always wanted it as a brand for myself, even with a background. I'm an Adventist, that's my background, and
Yes.
suits are a thing.
They're part of us, yeah.
Elke dag, meli out, look proper, clean, you know what I mean? So that played a very influential role. Now, if I were to get into how the whole journey started, my then girlfriend, my wife now, Fezile.
Hey, hallelujah. Come on, somebody.
I remember that was my first year as a graduate trainee, and I would go to a place called Tunusa. I hope that language is not going to be censored on this podcast.
Don't worry, you're
That's
free.
what we call it in Joburg.
Yes.
You get there, you Tunusa, you bend over effectively.
Okay.
Pan through a heap of clothing.
Oh.
So it's ex-European clothing, very proper material. You're looking at cashmeres, woolen fabrics that are proper. Pick up a jacket, looks nice. Take it to a dry cleaner, recondition it, tailor it to fit, and then wear that to work. Kalingamla, kala yonke into, people are interested in the type of clothing that this guy is wearing, Yangtola. And then that's how I get my first clients,
Okay.
We built the brand from there. And then she says, you know what, why don't you, because people are going on about how great this fashion is.
Yes.
And then she says to me, but why don't you sell this thing to people? Instead of just referring them to where you're getting all those things. Then that's where the business idea was born.
Wow. So from getting it basically downtown in a way. And then the idea came in to say let's make it a brand.
100%.
Sure, interesting stuff. Of course, you were at Wits. You
Yes.
spend a lot of time at Witsdasm, and
Yes.
I want to know what kind of background did that give you in the way you do business or in the world of business? How did that play a role?
So I'll give you, I'll actually rewind it back, you know.
Yes.
So there was a philosophy that was taught in church from when you were a kid. It's called stewardship, you know, and they'll always go on about if you're given something, a task, a responsibility,
Yes.
grow into it and be a custodian. So it's about custodianship and, you know, just being very effective in whatever you do, right? So when we get to Verts, I'm there. Verts is a community. Remember, I'm from Soweto, and you just got there. You meet all different types of people, people from different backgrounds. Even, I mean, the wealth status is different. You know, people from wealthy families, and then for us, ordinary families. You know, you get
Yeah.
there. You have to actually kind of find a place, you know, for yourself.
And
So
distinguish yourself in a way.
exactly,
Yeah.
you know. So Stasm was a place where we got to, right? After a whole week of studying and engaging in very rigorous, I studied actuarial science, so it was very taxing, you know. So when you get there, you're meeting all those people, very cool people, and it's a very nice opportunity to dress up, you know, look,
Yes.
you know. And at the time, because, you know, it was the time you needed to find
Yes.
a significant other eventually, you know what I mean? So you want to
Yeah.
look clean, young Tola. So that was the times, you know. So I think Stasm was really a community. So for me, why it became very significant
Yes.
was my very first clients were people that I had met at Stasm.
Ah, lovely.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
So that's where the significance of the Stasm and the vets community played in my journey as a businessman. Yes.
That's very inspiring. I think it's nice to know, you know, the roots of where, you know, the people that like kind of helped you kickstart the business. And I know you always come back to Vitstasm to, you know, to do your thanks. So then take us through to, you know, how you then became deeply interested in men's hygiene, and perhaps what are your thoughts now, and how has that like thinking evolved in your life to say how men carry themselves
Yes.
plays a huge role in how they, you know, then become competent, excellent in whatever they do. So take us kind of through that narrative.
First week, F&B graduate program.
Yeah.
James Fowler, CEO of PBC. It was Premium and Business Core Banking. We have a meeting with him. We are graduates. I'm suited up. All the other graduates, pants and shirts.
Okay.
You know, standard. I mean, that's how corporate it is predominantly.
Yes.
And while I'm there, we having a meet and greet with the CEO. We converse with him, you know. It's like a sit down nicely, you know. It's like you've got a master, and then there's the students, and they eagerly, you know, also trying to show the master their prowess in what they know, you know, what they understand in the world of banking and business. And I'm there, you know, there is something that a suit does to you.
Yes.
It gives you posture, it gives you presence, it gives you a position. Umuntu ofake isuti wayigqoka kahle, when they walk into a space, you see them, it's very difficult to ignore them.
True.
I engage with the CEO just like every other person, right? Well, there's a lot of conversations that went on that day, and the following day my manager calls me and says, the CEO said they saw something in you and we must groom you. Right?
Ooh. Okay.
Story for another day.
Hey.
I'll give you another instance. I go to a government department famous for bed service.
Sure.
Rock up in a suit, properly tailored suit, you know, with a nice, you know, silky tie, well-fitted pants, polished brown shoes, very gentlemanly. I get there, the service I receive is exceptional.
Yes.
Mind you, I was in the same office a previous week, and I didn't have a particular document, and they had to call me back. They say, no, I have you're not serious. What was that, the following week or whatever?
Yeah.
And the way I was received or treated showed me that there is something about appearance. So that then translates to everything, right?
Sure.
So how you present yourself, you know, there are guys who are doing skincare routines, you know,
Yes.
guys are hectic now, and it's all about cleanliness, you know. There's a lot of stigma about guys who look after themselves. I know
Yes.
man.
They
You
call
understand?
they call them metrosexual males.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know. But for me, I really believe that it's very important, and people who understand men's health, they actually tell you that there is the way you treat your body, right,
Yes.
is actually linked to the way you eat. And it is linked to the way you think, how clean you are, how you are perceived by society. So that makes you a whole rounded man. So, for example, if you're well presented, you smell good, you know, people. Dude, I
Yeah.
took my vehicle for service the other day. This lady said,
Sure.
"Oh, you smell so good."
Yeah. Yeah.
Umakriza.
Sure.
And you know, and you're like, yes, you know, this has given her a perception about myself, how I
Yes.
present myself, and that might actually influence how she deals with me going forward.
True.
You know, so it's very important. I don't care how much of a billionaire you are, your presentation is very important. You don't want to be that guy where it's Bill Gates, for example. You tell
Yeah.
them, oh, yeah, don't you know? No, that's Bill Gates. You know, he's just down dressed, but he's Bill Gates. He's
Now you have to explain.
You have to explain out in my yacht, Cape Town,
Yeah.
at the V&A waterfront. He's got proper yachts there. He's moneyed. It's not about money,
Sure.
but it's really about how you present yourself.
Sure. Sure.
So that's my belief system when it comes to grooming for a gentleman. It is partly the reason why I moved into the wedding space, you know,
Yes.
where a groom is usually taken as an accessory. Now
They're not part of it.
Young Tola,
Yeah,
when I
know,
just
same.
look good and for the pictures, you
Yeah.
look good. You understand that it's all about the bride. So now there is a need for the groom to look good, you know. Groom, if the bride is doing her makeup, dude, get your nails done, you know,
Yes.
get how can I put it, get your facials done, look good in photos as well, get your hair done, look good in a suit, don't just get a suit off the rack, you know.
Yes.
So that's where my belief system stands at the moment.
And that's lovely. And you spoke about it, Suitability Gardens.
Yes, yes.
So now you transition from a business where you're tailoring suits and selling them to people, and then you create an entire value chain experience where now, from the suit design to put the person wearing it to the person going to the gardens to get married. That's incredible. Tell me about how you thought about scaling from that point to that other point, because I think it's something we miss in business, to say, look, this is what I do.
Yes.
This is only what I do.
Yes.
So I'm not going to expand from here because it's risky.
100%.
So tell me what went through there when you were, stepping up.
2018,
Sure.
I worked for the Discovery Group.
Yeah.
There's this ethos that they go with. It says shared value.
Yeah.
So shared value, it's very wide, you know, and it talks about how you've got your vehicle, right? The way you drive, you've got telematics, all that equipment installed on your car. It monitors your behavior, and you've got Discovery Health, and then there's Vitality, and then that Vitality then monitors. You've got your watch, and it monitors your steps and your heart rate and how you just how you act during the day, and it actually helps you with the other products that you may have. It could be your life insurance and everything, and it's an entire ecosystem, you know. You look at Beatvest company, how they've created an entire ecosystem. You've look at the Nespa's group, you know. And the dilemma that I found myself in was a bespoke suiting company. From everyone that I've seen, people that have preceded myself, there's always a cult of personalities where, okay, ubani designer, okay, cool. Everyone, I want to see that particular designer. I want to be helped by that particular designer, meaning that there is no opportunities to scale your business.
Yes.
So for me, that's where I've always been, to say, I need to be able to scale this business. After scaling this business, I want to be able to share an entire value chain, or control an entire value chain, right? That's where the gardens came into play.
Okay.
So gardens, when other graduates were buying nice apartments. I decided I'm just going to buy something in the Bundus.
Yes.
And then, so that's where the development started. And then Suitability Gardens was born. Suitability Gardens is way bigger than Suitability, the suits business, than you could ever imagine.
Sure.
You host ministers, you host celebrities, you host all these people. God has been good.
Yeah.
But the whole point is to be able to control, or rather offer, an entire chain and experience. So for me, let me put it this way. I'm an actuary by profession,
Yes.
right? That's what I was trained to do in varsity. And it's something that when I tell people what I studied, they actually get shocked. You understand?
Yeah.
But the whole thing taught me that there are no barriers, right? In whatever you want to do. So, for example, I'm a suit designer. It means I've got a very keen interest in how things look.
Yes.
So if I like how things look, I can get into interior decor. All our studios, we've got a studio in Umhlanga, we've got a studio in Sandton, we're opening one in Cape Town next month. We've got the grooming parlor, we've got the venue. I've designed that thing single-handedly for the spaces. So you can get into interior decor just on the philosophy of you being able to identify how beautiful things look, you know?
Yeah.
And you'll be able to say, okay, cool. Even if I were to go into grooming, the philosophy is still the same. Others even design houses after that.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you an example. Versace.
Oh, yes.
Versace, because they are so good at designing fabrics and clothing items, you know. They do interior decor. There's an entire hotel called the Versace Hotel.
Indeed.
So that's when you harness all those gifts that you've been given and or borrowed rather, and be able to put together something that can live beyond what you stand for or your time on earth, basically.
Sure, it's lovely that you mentioned that, because you take into account the stewardship of it all. And I think it's nice that you mentioned that you didn't want to just create an isolated system, because sometimes when you're an excellent chef, but you are the only chef that can do chefing like you can't then transfer the skills. And I assume in your business you've had to hire, you've had to train personnel. So how has that been for you, the managing part of business? I know sometimes the visionary founder in you might say, I love creating the vision, but then the managing part is also quite essential. How has been your style in managing your people?
I think I've learned a lot of lessons. Like I said, the bespoke suiting industry is a very cult-like industry.
Yes.
So where you fall in love with the designer and you're like, I want to get dressed by that. And in your quest to try and multiply that skill, you actually train people. Those people can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm starting my own brand. It's business. They migrate with half your clients, right? Because cults of personalities, right? And then they build a business of their own, right? But as time goes, you actually understand that the vision is way bigger than yourself, right? And what you offer is bigger than what you can ever, imagine, right? So I'll give you context. Managing a business of that nature is very complex, right? Time is very limited. The one strategy and style that has worked for me is delegating.
Lovely.
Delegating. If a task doesn't need your direct attention, then there has to be someone else who's well suited and best positioned in terms of their time, resources, and what they're supposed to be doing to deal with it.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think the main problem is having to deal with businesses that are not presently where you are based. You have to uproot yourself. Last year was very difficult for me. I had to leave my wife and my son to go set up a business in Durban. It's a very taxing type of situation, but I guess it needs to be done eventually. And then
Oh, that's inspiring. I think I think we can all learn a thing or two about delegating, because we burn ourselves out as, startup entrepreneurs, and we try to do everything ourselves because, I mean, we at that point we only really trust ourselves to deliver the quality that we want to deliver. I think that's nice. So let's maybe shift into how you. I think there was a question about luxury brands that I had for you.
Yes.
In the business world, generally, people would go for two options, right? So you go for the option where you get the most amount of clients, and then you sell a lot of products at a cheaper price, right? Or you go for a few clients, but you sell them expensive product. And the luxury market in South Africa is a tricky one to enter into, and you've been able to kind of push the bounds a bit, tap into the luxury tastes of people and tap into sort of luxury branding. Tell us about the experience. How do you have to think business-wise to be able to tap into that? And from a marketing perspective, what are some of the things that you managed to do? Because yes, a cult is important, but other things behind that to say, I'm going to go into luxury now. Yeah.
That's a very interesting question, and I never imagined that I'd have to answer that question. So I'll give you context.
Sure.
When the brand was started, we used to go KwaDunusa, get second-hand jackets. We sold them for 400 Rand. I remember I bought my first jacket for 60 bucks, reconditioned it, sold it for 400 Rand.
Sure.
That was very entry level, not even entry level. I have never met a designer who sells a suit less than 4,000,
Sure.
And time goes, and then I start buying suits from Turkey, those Turkish suits, adjust them nicely, Angtola, look good. And then you say, okay, no, this is restricting my creativity. Let's go into something a bit more complex, right? We go bespoke suiting. My mind is blown. There's someone in South Africa who can actually make a bespoke suit, a custom-made suit. Wow. Okay, then that happens, and then even your pricing goes up, even the type of material that you use, right? And then you migrate from that. Okay, I want to design my own shoes, my own bags. I want people to be able to wear this brand, And then you start with association, the way you present your brand. It's not a Mickey Mouse brand. It's, the way you show up.
It's a big deal.
Any event, people start seeing, this is a big deal, It's really about the words that you whisper,
Hey, whispers of wealth, come on now. Yes, sir.
The words that you whisper, I remember our business changed one year when you dressed the CEO of Audi then. We dressed, he was the head of Vodacom business. We dressed Robert Marawa, and when you post that on your pages and all that, then you start noticing that even the clientele is changing. Even the way, the type of cloth, the fabric that you use, your market changes, and and luxury is unnecessary.
Sure.
You can live without luxury. The suitability tagline has always been, we specialize in the unnecessary necessities.
Come on now. Kuala.
So the unnecessary necessities are essentially things that you actually don't need.
Yes.
But they are very necessary for the way you brand yourself as a person.
True.
So the whole brand has been centered around individualism for the clients, right? To be able to express yourself. So it's small things where you actually initialize the jacket, initialize the shirt, to be able to actually have a situation where a client is rocking your product and they feel very important. So you see gentlemen who come to you and they buy your shoes.
Yes.
For almost the same amount of money that they would spend on a Versace or a Gucci loafer, but it's like, no, Bafo, this is proper stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've got my initials engraved on my shoe, something that no one else can offer me. So that is where the brand, how we've actually been lucky, because at some point it wasn't intentional, but you just know that you want to sell something that people can be proud of.
Sure.
I'm going to work on actually understanding what differentiates us from, say, a budget brand.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that one would do, even the way you brand yourself, even a vehicle owned by the business, the way it is branded.
Yes, it's outside.
It's not even for your own enjoyment. It's just for the purposes of branding.
Sure.
You get into the studio. I was in Durban 3 days ago, and a gentleman walks in the because of the finishes that we've actually went out and spent money on. Tiling weights not necessary on the walls, dado rails on the walls, chandeliers dropped from the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's insane. Brands have worked for years to actually achieve that, and we're currently in that journey.
Yeah, no, that's inspiring. I think you mentioned the celebrity clients. I think that was a huge, should I say, boost also for your self-image as a brand to say, look, if we're able to service celebrity clients at this magnitude, and they love our content and our productions, I think it's inspiring to say you can then sell to anyone.
100%.
The fact that people who are in those senior positions appreciate your brand, that's a huge thing. So tell me about, I'm gonna push back a little here. This is the nature of podcasting.
Sure.
So we have the Adventist space, right?
Yes.
Which then says unnecessary necessities are not necessary. That's a school of thought.
Yes.
Tell me what you think about the whole contest between modesty and fashion, because then there's a debate to say, should modest clothing be unfashionable, or can modest clothing be equally fashionable? And then what do we say about vanity in that conversation? So it's something that I've just thought about curiously. Maybe you can answer.
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot here. I need to now decampaign my brand.
No.
Okay, so let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Right. I live in a house, and I was telling my wife 3 days ago, not even 3 days, last week, I think, and I'm like, all this is unnecessary. Do you know we could actually survive in a 2-bedroom house? We've got a small kid who's 2 years old. We don't need half those things. You can actually travel from A to B, in a nice tak-tak, those yellow thingies sent in Young Tola. And the brand of clothing that we sell, if I look at a suit that you can get, say, at the Plaza or China Mall, where you pay 500 Rand for a suit, you can actually go to a wedding. It's very functional. You can drape yourself and cover your body where it's necessary. Fashion is very unnecessary, and I find myself in a rock and a hard place.
Sure.
Where I can't justify that because wealth, and it's a very complex young Tola.
It is.
There's the prosperity gospel on one side.
Yes.
Was created for you, my boy.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. But there's a lot of modesty that you need to do, right? So I'll give you context. It's going to be very difficult to look modest in a suitability suit.
Okay.
And go rough, young tall.
Yeah.
This is a very tough one.
Sure.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yes.
Given an opportunity to drive a V8, right? Let's say an S63 V8. Or let me make it better. A V12 S65 bi-turbo. Into zabantu abadala.
Yo.
Young taller. 12 cylinders, Baba.
Yes.
And then a very nice Suzuki Swift.
Yes.
What's your answer there? And how do you tie it back
To my question.
Yes.
No, I'm going for the 12 cylinder. And I'll tell you why I asked that question. Because I believe that modesty should more be in how I think and how I carry myself.
Right.
So that my clothing, my appearance, what I drive, then does not reveal a bad character about myself.
Okay.
But that my clothing and my dress and whatnot still with that leaves me in good character.
Fair enough.
So my understanding of modesty is that to the level of blessing that I'm blessed with, I should be able to live comfortably and be able to enjoy nice things, but at the same time know that I'm not defined by the nice things.
Nice.
And I think what I've seen from you and your brand clearly, you dress in a bespoke manner. You promote your bespoke branding, but it doesn't come across as vanity for me. Okay. It definitely comes across as this is a guy who is trying to make sure that men appear in the most confident version of themselves, which is something that I truly admire, which is something that we need more of. Whereas we're not supposed to have these shy, stubborn, just working for the Lord in a good type. We can't operate like that, because also there's an influence that, tying back to Christianity, that we have to say how are we going to then influence the world if we look a bit so that's my view. Of course, we have different views on these platforms, but it's an interesting engagement.
I like your view. So let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
Jesus rocks up. Other guys are coming in V12s.
Yeah.
He rocks up on a donkey. There is just a lot of referencing. I get you. Your philosophy is beautiful.
Yes.
If someone was to come to me and ask me questions about, hey, dude, you're selling vanity in Mamela and not. Vanity, it's about a state of mind, my boy, young tall. But
of course,
I want to. That's very philosophical, and I
Yes.
get you, right? But on a very practical basis, right? If I rock up in my V12, right? How do people perceive me? That's the first thing, right?
Yes.
Even without even talking,
Sure.
I can come out with my hand on my chest, my head bent
Oh,
like this.
Nciko.
But
Sure.
what do I portray to the world? You understand? Hey, we need to have a very lengthy offline discussion on this.
It's a different conversation, that one. Let's go back to the business, because I think you've dropped a few gems here, and I really appreciate that. There's an interesting marketing guru that I've been listening to recently. He says there's a theory around how we do business where people usually look at business with logical decisions, to say, make a logical product, sell it to logical people, make a logical assessment of who you're going to sell it to.
Yes.
And then there's a portion of it that is supposed to be random, where you're supposed to involve a little bit more experimentation.
Hundreds.
And he says that this is also what happens in nature, because we wouldn't have honey if bees did not do the same. So bees, when they pollinate flowers, they don't use a system process all the time. They don't use a systematic process. They sometimes, out of random occurrence, go to different species of flowers to find nectar. And that's what produces more honey, because it produces more opportunity.
Yes.
So it's the difference between exploiting what you already have and exploring what you can have within the same setup. Tell me a little bit how you've kind of experimented, pushed the bounds a bit to get to where we are.
You've said such an interesting concept. If I think at guys who had the mainframe computer, I think it was in the 50s or 60s.
Yes.
I'm sure it was 100 kilobytes, and it consumed an entire room. And I'm thinking how they probably didn't need it at the time, but because of military advancements, they needed to push, you know. It's something that it wasn't a need, you know. And I've had a lot of, find a problem and solve it. Find a problem and solve it, Some of those things we actually don't know. So for example, if you remember in high school, there were girls or guys who were never noticed by anyone.
Very true.
And when they start dating someone, all of a sudden, everyone notices this person. You know, it's the same thing. You actually don't know what you don't have or what you need. You know, so I'm actually very inspired by the Apple product concept. You know, my wife got me an Apple Watch, which I thought was ridiculous. You know, and then when you actually start seeing how user friendly or how easier it makes your life to be. Something that I never thought I needed.
Yeah.
Same applies to our business. People who do bespoke suits are predominantly known to have been people who studied fashion design. The first boundary that I had to push was, okay, why not? I can do it. You know, with my background, I can do it. Even in spaces that you move around, but can you make a jacket? You know, and then there's that negative sentiment about yourself, but it still motivates you, it drives you, you know. Getting into the wedding industry where you've got a wedding venue, where everyone else who owns a wedding venue is a wedding planner. And then you are there when as a bespoke suit maker, like, what are you doing here? You don't have expertise in planning. You don't have an expertise in running an event, for goodness sake. What are you doing? So you're pushing that boundary, you know? And I think the biggest boundary that I've actually been blessed to experiment on is having different branches of the same brand.
Okay.
Where you can actually experience what you would experience in Sandton while in Durban.
Okay.
It's something that is very minimal, especially in South Africa, where you actually get, let's say, a famous designer. You can go to Durban and actually get an exact product as the one you would get in Joburg. Custom made and everything. The experience is the same, seamless, you know. So it's always been a brand known, or a business known not to be scalable because of how it's set up. So that boundary, you know, to say, okay, I know it's a cult of personalities, but what if we are all cults, all personalities that you can engage in and still receive or experience experience the brand through different people.
Sure.
We go to Durban, we get there. Durban. Yeah, the guys there are not really into Western suits.
Sure.
You know, khona le tawla lamabhinqa abalithandayo.
Okay.
It's Jab Madrat. Okay. Oh, all right. They love it. They carry it around. You know what, my boy? Let's make a very clean product for them and incorporate that cloth.
Yeah.
Ooh, they go crazy. Designers go around, they're copying it. It gets all over the place.
Sure.
Like, oh, okay. Oh, nice. So, Isilo. Oh, the whole kingdom is based on the leopard.
Yes.
Leopard is very revered, you know? Oh, okay, cool. Can we print a fabric that resembles that leopard? Oh, okay. Can we incorporate it into our pieces that we sell predominantly in KZN?
Yes.
Then you know what next thing happens? Everyone, people, guys in Limpopo, hey, we want dating KZN, say, Funa, bring it here.
Yeah.
You understand? And then you've experimented on stuff. Everything is an experiment. The industry grows every day. Brands mushroom every day. You need to consistently and constantly refurbish what you offer and differentiate yourself.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely, and the experiences there that you bring across. I think you inspire even the people that think, you know, doing something like this is unfathomable. But I think we've gone to the business side. I think we've given them a lot. Tell us about maybe your day to day. What do you get up to? Like, what is the day in the life of a Suitability CEO in charge?
So the first thing that I get every morning is a message from anyone in my teams telling me about a problem on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We have to solve this, we have to do that. And then I try to empower them to be able to make those decisions without reaching me. That's not working. So it's morning problems.
Sure.
You wake up, you go to the gym, your young devotion before you hit the gym, which is not very consistent sometimes.
It's part of life. Yeah.
That's another very beautiful business model. You should consider it. And then after that, you start with your day now, right? Usually there's a lot of work that needs to be done at the venue. We're constructing a second venue there, so it's a whole lot of work. You have to now go to Sandton. You don't know how your day will end up.
Okay.
You might need to sleep in Durban that same night, you know. So what I like about this life is there is a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of different vibes that you experience on a daily basis. There's a lot of lessons that you learned. There are a lot of meetings. You meet a lot of people. But one thing I've realized about the life of a businessman is how I used to be so in touch with my phone. But at the end of the day, I can clear all my chats. And at the end of the day, I've got 50 or 100 unread messages that make me very nervous to open, because it could be a problem from anyone that I need to resolve.
Sure.
Or it could be just people needing my attention on something. So that's what makes up my day.
Sure. I can imagine. It's a lot on anybody's plate, but it's part of the stewardship.
Hundreds.
Yeah, it's part of the stewardship. No, this has been lovely. I think maybe to close it off, you can tell us about your spirituality. I know you said devotional life. Here and there, busyness takes a part of our lives, and I think it's a real conversation to have. To say, look, God is obviously in every part of how we do business. And rather than adopting a very rigid form of devotion, I would say, why wouldn't the devotion just be continuous? So that yes, of course, you can start with him at the beginning of the day, but at several intervals in the day where decisions need to be made that you just don't know how they're going to be made. That's where God comes in. You say, hey, bro, I don't know what's happening here. So what do we do? It's a Hebrew way of devoting yourself to God throughout the day, rather than just an event and then everything else is circular. So tell us about that. Also your spirituality and everything else.
Okay, so I don't go to church every Sabbath. That's my confession. I'm sure I might need to be called to the other podcast.
I in the vestry after this, yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this, right? The power of God is very evident in our lives, and it's something that I've seen over the years. There are certain risks that I take, and maybe it's wrong doing this, but I take those risks because I know God has got my back. Somehow, it's something that I grew up knowing. I wasn't told it at any point. I always knew I was different. Everywhere I went to school, I came second in Gauteng, top matriculant. I always knew, man, that I've got favor, So every time everything goes wrong, being an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell you a story. Month end, as ya do, mama boy, month end, there are all those costs that there are a lot of families that depend on
salaries, bro.
And you're like, nah. E20 they hit, maybe the first set of those business debit orders go off, and then you're pushing, and one thing you're hoping for is never to touch savings.
Yes.
And then you are there, man, 26, 27, and you see, I know, it's rough. And you know that I can never survive. with my power because
Alone.
I've done everything. I mean, what else can I do? Then if you the Lord himself,
Yeah.
Fita Ntwana yam, bamba yiso.
My contract. Yeah. It closes everything.
Dude. And then it's the second, you're like, how did that happen? What?
Yeah.
So it's a devotion, like you say.
Yeah.
God is with us the whole time. And even though sometimes we don't call on him, he's just there. You know, I don't know if it's because there are people who depend on this and you are just an instrument.
Yes.
And I mean, I always tell my teams, when you get a customer complaint and they crazy and they want to put something on Google so that everyone sees how incompetent you are. I'm like, guys, you must know we are in a boat.
Yeah.
Canoa. If you are a risk to the boat sinking, if we're at risk of having the boat sink because of you, I'm a boy. Into the water, my boy.
Ne?
Even if it's myself.
Yeah.
Because now it's bigger than myself. There's a lot of people who depend on it.
Surely.
I'm with you, my brother. Appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Hey, man, this has been a lovely chat. I think we can wrap it up here. Beloved, this has been Wealth Whispers with me, your host, Kahana Sudupane, and I was here with the one and only Awakhiwe Kona, founder and CEO of Suitability. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Last words to the people.
Okay. I'm going to say this. There is nothing structured in this world. Everything that you do can be diverted from. Let me put it this way. Anything that you do doesn't have a set of rules. There are people who've experienced things and they've got an opinion about how you need to do things. There's a rule book about how things should be done in this world. I think kicking doors is a motto that I follow, and I would hope for people who want to follow a similar journey or people who are experiencing similar problems to always just kick doors, man. You can always start afresh. Thank you.
Lovely one. And that's how we wrap it up here on the Advent Pod SA. Thanks. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Lahlithema, ndizoqhubeka.